My name is Bob Manley, and I am currently a councilman in Verona, and I presently serve as your deputy mayor as well. My wife Nancy and I moved to Verona a little over 21 years ago with our two then small children, Sarah and Tyler, and we've enjoyed a wonderful life here. The very best decision that Nancy and I ever made was to raise our children in Verona. Now, my background is in education. I've been a science teacher for 25 years and a high school coach of 4 different sports for that time. Wow, that was quick. I hold a master's degree in educational administration and supervision, and I've been called upon to perform many leadership roles in that capacity. I ran for election in 2009, and I've been proudly serving on the council since that time. I feel truly privileged to be a part of this governing body, and I know that I have served you with honesty and integrity throughout my tenure. I believe that I possess and I have exhibited all of the requisite qualities of an effective, committed, and competent representative of the townspeople of Verona. And I sit here tonight asking for your further support. Thank you very much.
I have moved to Verona some 40 years ago. When my wife and I came, we have brought our 3 children who went through the school system here. Just absolutely love Verona. Some of you may know me from a different role. I was a high school teacher at Verona High School, teaching industrial arts for some 17 years. And unfortunately, the student population took a dip, and I was a victim of what they call a RIF, reduction in force. That doesn't mean I don't care about Verona. I still love Verona. I still love to be here, and I have reached the point now where I would like to continue to serve Verona. People ask me, well, why are you doing this? Why do you want to get into, this arena? And I will hold up a paper. It's a little old. It's January 8th, 2012, and it talks about Essex County property taxes and Verona's property taxes. In the last 5 years, 31% raise on average in the town of Verona, and I'm very concerned about that, especially when I meet people, and now I'm out walking, talking to people, where they feel they have to move out of town because their taxes are too high. I hope that I can get on to the council and be very responsible to control spending and to work for the citizens of Verona. Thank you.
My husband Larry and I, and our then 1-year-old son Noah, moved to Verona almost 34 years ago. We've since raised 4 children here and still love living in this caring, creative, and lively community. I've been involved as a volunteer and elected official for more than 25 years. When my children were small, I was active in the SCA, involved in Save the Mountains effort to preserve the hilltop. I led a petition drive that asked the state to put the hilltop aside for open space. I acquired well more than 10,000 signatures leading to the creation of the Hilltop Reservation. I was the founding president of the Verona Park Conservancy and chair of the Verona Environmental Commission. I served 2 terms on the Verona Town Council. In my 2nd term, I served as mayor during a very difficult time for many Verona residents. The economy had collapsed, and at the same time, we were going through a town-wide reevaluation. The perfect storm. I'm proud to say that I listened to those who had concerns about the reval process and budget procedures, as well as considering the manager's report while I formulated my own decisions. During my term as mayor, the town completed its new master plan and rewrote zoning, making sure that Verona kept its small-town atmosphere and great quality of life. I sat as the council member of the planning board during that process, and when I was mayor, I went to planning board meetings myself. I did not point a surrogate. During my terms on the council, I was on the committee that studied the advantages of changing from a director of public safety to appointing a police chief, and I served on the committee that provided a plan for improving the Central Business District. I'm enthusiastic, I'm energetic, and I'm dedicated to serving all the residents of Verona. Thank you.
It was 12 years ago that I first appeared here as a candidate whose intent was changing a poorly thought-out hilltop redevelopment plan that would have negatively impacted our town forever. And 6 years later, as your mayor, much of that land became part of a beautiful county park system and Centennial Field, which was completed without the use of tax dollars. It was also the single greatest revenue producer this town has seen, about $1 million per year in revenue that will go towards tax relief, helping our schools, and paying down the cost of our proposed new fields if they are passed. As mayor, despite lawsuits and the threats of bulldozers, I stood with local residents to fight Kipps Castle redevelopment plan, and now it's another beautiful county park. As your councilman, my record shows I respond to needs to all our residents and not a select few. I believe in open and accessible government, holding quality discussions with an open exchange of ideas to improve our community. I fought to reinstate the police chief's position and created our revenue-producing solar program. We've increased shared service and improved our roads in downtown, much of it done with grant dollars, expanded our water system that brings in revenue and has stabilized rates for the past 12 years, to the point we have not seen any increase during that time. Financially, we're in good shape because we're prepared for the future and possible bumps in the road. We have a top bond rating for municipalities, a low bond debt ratio, and my goal is a flat municipal tax levy for the 3rd straight year. Recently, listening to the concerns of families, I ended a long, drawn-out discussion, and we are now switching to organic fertilizer on our fields. Just this past November, I saved $400,000 in sewer bonds by pointing out that we can use old projects, the funds off old projects. I believe council members need to have ideas and to be creative. They need to treat volunteers, employees, and residents with respect. They also need to be accountable. And for 12 years, I have been an independent voice that stands up and is not afraid to make a decision. I'm not someone that buckles under signs of pressure. I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but please trust that I always put the interests of this great community first. Thank you.
I have been a resident of Verona since 1991. I have 2 children, Betsy and Richie, who both graduated from the Verona school system. I have been a member of the Verona Environmental Commission, the Budget Review Committee, and the Verona Centennial Committee. I've been active with the Verona Band Parents for the last 8 years and the VBSL for the last 10 as a board member and coach. I have been a record safety course instructor for the last 4 years and have trained hundreds of youth coaches in Verona. I have worked in the construction industry for over 30 years. During this time, I have been in charge of budgeting, manpower assessments, purchasing, billing, estimating, and property management. As the general manager of a small business, I am familiar with the increasing costs of health benefits and the effects it has on not only employers but the employees. I understand the positive role that technology can play on productivity. Having worked with many people, numerous organizations over the last 22 years, I believe I have a feel for what Verona values. In order for a town to grow and succeed, residents need to continue to come together and work towards a common vision. I will be one of the leaders to keep Verona's values, achieving nothing but the best while remaining fiscally responsible. Thank you.
I'm running for re-election to the council after having been successful in winning a special election only 2 years ago, which makes me somewhat unique on the podium. When it became time to make a decision on running for a full 4-year term, I went back and reviewed my campaign promises to the voters. I needed to determine if I'd at least made a good faith effort to fulfill them. At the time, I committed to try to hold the line on spending and reduce costs, to seek greater transparency and more open government. I also promised to devote time and energy to my council responsibilities. In reviewing my performance, I believe I've lived up to my promises. I voted no on the last 2 municipal budgets because I felt that more effort should have been made to cut discretionary costs. Keeping them flat was not a solution to our property tax increases. Cuts were needed to offset the increases in rising salaries, health benefits, pension contributions, and debt services. The town has experienced a severe decline in ratables over the last 2 years, which also directly impacts that. In the area of transparency and open government, I was an early advocate for the televising of budget workshops. My philosophy is any meeting open to the general public should be recorded and broadcast. I strongly support the prompt release of public information requested by any citizen. I am pleased to see that we now have some budget information online. I would like this to apply to town contracts as well. The overall economic environment is still tough. Unemployment in New Jersey is high and wages are flat. Going forward, much work needs to be done to address the need to keep Verona affordable for working-class families and seniors. Our labor contracts are expiring at the end of the year for both the police and municipal employees. They have received salary increases of 3.25% and 3% over the last 2 years. Only a handful of them have started to pay for their health insurance premiums. Starting next year, that will be somewhat rectified. While I strongly value the service they provide, changes need to be made. We will need individuals on the council that are keenly aware of the economic challenges and will direct the manager to negotiate a contract that is fair and reasonable to all residents. The council will still need to look for additional cost cuts and potential revenue sources. I believe my action over the last 2 years has shown that I will continue to be a strong, independent voice on the council to meet this need. Thank you.
I'm running for a seat on the council to solve a problem. I firmly believe that the era of high property taxes in New Jersey needs to end now. There's no greater factor that's choking the state's economy and hurting its citizens than this. Property taxes are a statewide problem that will only be solved locally. There isn't help coming from Trenton. There's not a brilliant financial maneuver that we can all make right now to solve this. We have to look at every unit of government to look at our costs and make choices and look ahead for the future to solve the issue. Here in Verona, we've been hit with property tax hikes that are a little harder than some other folks have experienced, 31% as was said earlier. And I say that the problem is that across the board, our expenses are too high. We pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime and administrative costs. Our debt service costs are increasing faster than anything other than health care. And there's no revenue solution to this problem. Every non-tax dollar that comes into the town goes to increase costs immediately. We don't really see any property tax relief. I'd like the opportunity to address this problem, and I believe I have the experience necessary to push back at high costs. I deal with budgets every day. I'm responsible for managing costs and operating an organization efficiently. I supervise major capital construction projects, and I know how to build things that we can afford. And I've been paying attention to the Verona budget for years. I know that budget in detail. I look at every line item every year and figure out where our costs are and where we should be saving money. I work every time that I can to find suggestions that we can reasonably make cuts that will not affect services to the community. If I'm elected, I promise I'll work as hard as I possibly can to make Verona an affordable and sustainable town for the benefit of all my fellow citizens and try and keep the services that we have. I look forward to our discussion tonight, and I hope to win your support. Thank you.